Hello ladies, thank you for joining me today. Today we're just going to do a little floor practice, and you'll need a blanket for sure for some extra padding underneath of your knees, and maybe a couple of blocks if you have them. And we'll just start in a nice seated position, and I just have crossed legs here, but feel free if you prefer stacking your ankles or your heels in front of you, or bringing the soles of your feet together if that's more comfortable today. Any way you choose is perfect. And we'll take a moment just to start to get connected to our breath. And as you're here, maybe bringing your hands to your belly. Maybe starting to curl the corners of your mouth. And take a moment before we begin our practice just to be grateful for this baby, and for also taking this time out for you for this practice today, because sometimes getting to this point is the hardest part. The practice is easy. So thank yourself for taking this time out right now for you. And noticing here as you're taking breath in, how your belly rises and falls. Maybe if you can feel the upper parts of your belly rising and fall, or even your chest if you bring your hand over towards your heart. Just kind of notice how your body breathes. And as you take each breath in, following your breath in and out. We'll slowly start to find a little bit of movement. So I'm going to take my feet and bring the soles of my feet together, but kind of think about bringing your heels and your ankles so that they're right on your mat, so that you're not pressing your ankles into the floor, so you have a little bit of cushion here. And if you need more padding under there, it's always perfect. Sometimes I like to have a little dish towel handy, and we'll just start some movements, and just some simple movements, some simple circles. And you can kind of make this a little bit more of your own. So maybe you like more right to left movements, but we're just trying to kind of get the hips a little bit open, kind of making this a really subtle and slow process, so that as we move through our poses, each pose gets a little bit easier on our hips and our low back. So we'll just find some circles here so you can kind of really get into it, kind of thinking about this center point where your sits bones are as like this big point where we stir this really big pot of soup, if you will, and kind of thinking of our torso as this big spoon going round the edges. And let's switch directions when you come to a good stopping point, and we'll just switch directions for a moment. And again, you can kind of keep knees kind of going with you. It's really what you feel that feels good for you here. I'm kind of sliding off of my blanket a little bit, so I'm going to take a second and get back on my blanket. I get real into these kinds of movements for hips because they feel so good. And let's find, whenever you've finished this round that we're working on, let's make a little pause. So we come back to the middle, sit up nice and tall, and then when you're ready, we'll just hinge at the hips and lead with our chest. So hinging here and leading with our chest, keeping a nice tall spine. And you can kind of use your feet for leverage here if you'd like, or even hands to the shins or calves. And we just pause here. And a little bit of side-to-side movement might feel good every now and again, but for the most part, finding stillness. And we'll slowly start to make our way up nice and tall. Then let's extend our right leg forward and we'll bend our left knee. So if you need a little bit of space, you can have your knee a little bit off to the side, and that's perfect. And we'll find ourselves getting nice and active into our right foot, extending all the way out into your right toes, ground into your left foot as well. And as we're here, we find ourselves nice and tall on our sits bones, and we'll slowly start to turn over towards our right side. So we start to open our hearts towards our right side. And keeping this nice tall seated position as we twist. And eventually, if you feel you're in a good position, you'd like to look over your right shoulder. We'll eventually start to make our way forward. So still stay active in our legs. That's also going to help keep us a little bit more sturdy in our poses. Head and neck comes around last. We'll switch out our feet. So left leg goes long, right foot comes in. So again, if you need to make a little bit more space so you can, it doesn't have to be right here where it normally would be. And we just find ourselves nice and tall. And when you're ready, same thing. So we just slowly start to turn our hearts over towards our left side. And keeping ourselves real strong and active into our feet, grounded into this right foot, and eventually looking over your left shoulder. We'll slowly start to make our way forward. Head and neck comes around last. Let's bring the soles of our feet together again, or just regular cross-leg position is fine for you if you'd prefer it, and we'll just find another gentle forward fold. And slowly we'll start to make our way up nice and slow. We'll find a hands and knees position. So you can kind of shift your heels to the side, make your way. So I'm going to go ahead and get my blocks ready just so that I have them handy, and bring them up here towards the top part of my mat, but off to the side so they're not in your way. And then coming to hands and knees, find your blanket or towel. And I'm just going to make this space so that I have a lot of good cushion here, but I also have this ability to kind of make it a little bit more padded because I'm going to be on my knees a lot for this practice today. So we want to find so that we can maybe fold it so that we have a lot of cushion available for us. And when you find that good position for your hands and knees, I'm just going to scoop my block up forward so that you can see me well. Wrists and shoulders nice and stacked. And we find our hips and knees stacked as well. And we just find our nice, comfortable table position. And when you're ready, we'll start to find some tilting of our pelvis back and forward. So we just kind of find, and if you're familiar with yoga, you might already kind of be used to cat-cow movements. I like to start them with our pelvis just because this is kind of where we begin our movements, especially in prenatal yoga, because this area kind of needs a little bit of extra love. So we just find when you're ready, this next time that you start to dip your belly down, tilting your pelvis back, start to open your heart a little bit forward. And on your exhale, when you start to tilt your pelvis forward, start to round into your spine, and your head and neck can either relax or draw in towards your chest. I like to kind of go slow. On the inhale, we lengthen here, lengthen long, opening your heart forward. On your exhale, we start to draw our chest towards our hips and our chin towards our chest. And we just continue this forward and back motion to suit your own breath, to suit your needs here today. So our inhales, we lengthen forward, opening our heart. And our exhales, we round into our spine. So drawing your chest towards your hips, chin towards chest. And we just continue these movements forward and back. So as you're moving, you can start to kind of make these movements suit your needs. And can exaggerate these movements as much as you'd like. Even if you find a spot that feels good and you want to pause there and just kind of breathe there for a full cycle of breath. That's perfect. That's what I want for you. I want you to start to learn to find what feels good in your body. And let's finish this one we're working on. So we go to our inhale, lengthen into the front of your body. Exhale, we round. And then we come back to this neutral position and we'll find a child's pose. So I'm going to take my knees a little wide, so even so wide that they might be even wider than the outer edges of my mat here. And then slowly bring your forehead down to your mat. And so each step in that process can go really slow depending on how you're feeling today. And if this is feeling like a really big hip opener and you'd like to kind of shift and sway a little bit from side to side to kind of further open the hips, and you can kind of do so slowly. Don't feel you need to do as dramatic of movements as I'm doing. Sometimes the movements are so subtle that if someone were watching you, they couldn't even see the movement that you're making. And just anything that feels good. And then let's find a pause and relax back down. So if you need a little bit more space, feel free. You can stack your hands or even forearms if you need a little bit of space between your forehead and your mat. And just take a moment to be nice and heavy here. Relaxing your forehead all the way down, letting this full lengthen your spine and this heaviness of your body. In this inhale, we start to make our way back up. So nice and slow. Let's come back to our table position once more. So kind of make sure that you're back on your blanket or your towel and find your way back to your table position once more. And this time we have more of the knees closer together, so we're back to having our knees about hip width apart. And then let's bring our blocks in. So we shift our blocks in here so that we have, from our table position, we're going to shift our blocks just to the sides of our hands. So I'm going to bring mine all the way in so that you can barely see probably my fingers shifting just a little bit forward because my foot is going to come a little bit further forward than my blocks. From here, bring your hands to the tops of your blocks and pick up your right foot, shift it forward. So we find our way here with our toes coming a little further forward than our blocks. And we just start to sink forward into our front knee just as much as you choose. And this can be just a little simple, subtle movement, or this can be a little bit more exaggerated for you. And I like to find just a little bit of shifting, a little bit of swaying side to side as well here for you. And maybe even coming out of your pose and coming back in. Maybe sinking down and coming back. So this is kind of a variation of a lizard lunge where we're trying to get this hip point here and this hip point here separated, kind of like a pair of scissors. And we just kind of allow just that heaviness in our body to do most of the work. So if you kind of feel like you're not doing much but getting a good stretch, that's what we're looking for. And you can kind of modify it if you'd like. You can shift your back knee back just a little bit if you need just a little bit more space between your feet and your knees. And then let's bring, if you happen to curl your back toes under to shift it back, let's bring it back forward. And then one hand at a time, we bring them up to our knee for a little lunge here. So a little warrior lunge. So if this is a big stretch here in the top of the thigh, just take a moment and kind of allow that to happen. Don't rush to be upright and feeling as strong as possible yet. Just kind of allow that to be kind of subtle and take your time. Shoulders relax down. Start to get a little stronger into your front foot. Be real active here. And even kind of feeling like all four corners of your front foot are kind of pressing down. You can even kind of activate into your back leg a little bit, all the way to your toes, kind of drawing the left knee down as well. Shoulders relax down, and then we can extend our arms up overhead if you'd like. If you ever start to feel any tingliness though in your fingertips, go ahead and bring your hands down at any time, and just hands here is perfect, or even hands to your hips. And if any of those feel better for you just because they feel better, that's what I want for you. I want for you to just find this nice little bit of work here that's going to build strength, but it's not going to make you feel like you're out of breath and that you're uncomfortable. Kind of go to that space where you feel good, like you feel like you're doing something, but you also feel like it's nourishing your body, kind of making you feel good. And we'll do one more breath right here. Then let's bring our right hand down. So our left arm is going to kind of stay real stuck here into your shoulder. So although our arm is lifted, we're not trying to extend it up. We're keeping it nice and plugged into our shoulder. Right hand to the top of your right thigh. And then we're just going to slowly reach our left fingertips but over to the side, but we're going to find that extension from our left hip and our left knee. So it's really more like we're taking this space here and lengthening it from our bottom set of ribs to our hips down to our knee. And it doesn't have to be a big movement to get a big stretch. We'll slowly start to return our hand down to the top of our thigh. We'll return our left hand down to your block, right hand too, and then we'll step our right foot back. Let's do just a little bit of a puppy pose. I'm just going to shift my blocks to the side. You might be able to do this one just fine with your blocks there. And we'll just find from our table, start to walk your fingertips a little further forward, forehead rests down. So this one here, if you feel like this is too much pressure on head and neck, you can always bring your elbows down. And slowly, let's start to bring our elbows closer in, our arms closer in to where we find our way back to our table pose. And you can go ahead and bring your hands up here to the tops of your blocks. Left foot, when you're ready, steps forward. And we make some space here. So if you need to step your left foot over just a little bit to make some space for your baby, that's perfect here. And we just find our way, same thing here. We're just going to sink forward into our front knee. So little bits of movement here is perfect. Little right to left movement that feels good for you is perfect here. And you can kind of play with it. So I kind of like to kind of shift into it pretty deep and come back to where I feel a good stretch, but then not too much, not too fast, no need to. Just kind of going to that space that feels really good here, not going any further beyond that. And if you need to create more space between your front foot and your back knee, you can always take your back knee back a little bit. And take a moment just to kind of relax in here, so we kind of let our own body do the work for us just by allowing our body to be heavy. And we'll slowly start to return to where we started. So we'll bring our back knee back forward. We kind of get our setup back here, and then hands come back up to the top of this thigh to where we make our way upright. So again, if this feels like a pretty big stretch here, take a moment to kind of wait. Don't feel like you have to come all the way up real fast and force that. You can kind of let it go slow. So eventually you'll kind of feel like, yeah, I can do this. This feels good. But sometimes it's a pretty big stretch here, especially on the top of our thigh. This one's a hard one to stretch, so it's oftentimes one that's often neglected. So this one's pretty dramatic for us if this isn't a common position for you. And just kind of taking a moment, just get strong into your left foot, sturdy in your back foot all the way to your knee so that you feel you're kind of grounded, that you feel almost kind of like a statue, that you're going to be here for a little while. Extend your arms up overhead when you're ready. Again, feeling those four corners of your front foot. And you might feel that stretch in your quad, the top of your right thigh, a little bit more now with the arms extended. And that's normal. I'm feeling it too. Oh, wall. There's a wall there. Finding our way up nice and tall. Then slowly, let's return our left hand to the top of our left thigh. And then remember, we're going to keep this right shoulder nice and plugged in. We're going to locate this space between our right hip and our bottom set of ribs. And that's where we're going to lengthen as we start to find our arms shifting a little bit over towards our left side. Fingertips maybe shift. And they can still stay upright. You're still going to get a good stretch there, but kind of reaching over to kind of create a little bit of a small arch in that space is perfect. Again, nice and grounded into your right knee. One more breath here. Sturdy into your left foot. We'll slowly start to make our way down. You can kind of feel that space kind of spring back into space or into place. Hands to the top of your thighs, and then both hands make their way to your blocks. When you're ready, step your left foot back. We'll shift our blocks just to the side for a little while, and then we'll find another one of those puppy poses. So I'll go through it a little bit slower with you, and just remember that you can modify these with me, and I will try to give you all the modifications as we see fit as we go along. So we'll just start first with shifting our fingertips far forward in front of us, kind of almost as far as you can reach, and eventually your forehead rests down. And this one's a pretty big stretch on the underneath part of our arm, so that might be pretty challenging for you here. If you need a little bit of relief, just walk the fingertips closer forward or towards you so that you can shift your elbows down and forearms down. And we'll slowly start to make our way up. So use hands for support, pressing your way back up. Let's take our knees a little bit wide. So maybe as wide as you'd like, but I wouldn't go too far past the edges of your mat. And then we'll take our left hand underneath of us, so we have our wrist and shoulder stacked, and we find our way opening up our heart towards our right side. So we lengthen here, reaching right fingertips up towards the ceiling. A couple of breaths here. You can try to look up at your hand, but just looking over towards this side is perfect. You can just find everything just nice and stacked. So we feel like we're getting this good length, this good twist. And we're opening up here. We'll slowly bring our right hand down, and then we'll take our left hand over, bring your right hand underneath of your face, left fingertips this time reach up towards the ceiling. Just a couple more breaths here. And slowly we'll make our way down. So that wasn't quite a couple of breaths, was it? And we slowly make our way back down. So this time, let's go to child's pose. So you can kind of bring the little or the big toes of your feet closer together. And then we'll bring our hips down towards our heels and relax down into our child's pose. Again, just allowing your body to be heavy here. And maybe with each exhale, you let your body sink just a little bit further, a little bit heavier. Slowly we'll start to make our way back up. So come back up so that we're back to our table once more. And from your table, we're going to find our way into that nice and sturdy position. I'm going to go ahead and shift my blocks out of the way just a little bit. And I need a little bit of space. So I'm going to kind of come forward on my mat or to the side. You don't need to do this maybe because you don't have a wall behind you. And just finding our way from here, just finding our table pose once more. And then this time, let's take our right hand, kind of think about where your right hand is positioned here, and shift it next to your left hand, and then step your right foot forward. So your right foot goes about where your right hand just was. Then use your hands for support to come upright. So kind of, we've already done this, kind of that little warrior lunge, but we don't have the help of our blocks this time. And just take a moment to be upright again. And maybe if you feel good here, maybe take your left hand back down, curl your back toes under, and come back up once more. So even a little bit more deep into that quad here, shoulders relax down. Then we'll return our left hand down for a moment. We'll uncurl our back toes, and then we're going to take our left foot and kind of bring it over to the side. And I'm going to have you use your hands for support over here towards your left side now to shift your left knee back so that this right heel and this left knee is kind of in the same plane. So if you drew a line from your heel to your left knee, it'd be right in the same plane here. And then we'll come upright. And we'll just kind of pause here a moment. So again, a little stretch here in the top of this left thigh. And if you need to kind of make any adjustments here, we want to find the front knee and ankle nice and stacked. And then take a moment, kind of be grounded. So if it's more comfortable for you to angle this back foot just slightly, that's okay here. And we just kind of find, and if you need more padding under the knee, take a minute to do that. This can be a lot on your knees if you don't have the adequate padding underneath of you. So take a moment, making your way up nice and tall. And let's make this a full warrior two, where we shift our arms into a T position. So we want to think of center of wrist, center of shoulder best we can. And we want to kind of look back maybe and see if this backhand seems like it's nice and straight like your front. Maybe gaze at the middle finger of your front hand. We're going to add a little bit of movement here. So get a little strong and sturdy into your feet and your legs just to kind of help you out here with balance. And then it will slowly bring this backhand down, front hand reaches up. On your exhale, we'll come back down. We'll do this a couple of times. When you're ready, this inhale, we shift up. Exhale, we make our way back down. And one more time when you're ready, we inhale up. Exhale, we make our way all the way down. And then this time we're going to bend our arm at the elbow, bring it down to the top of our thigh, and let's bring this hand down to our side for a moment because we want to keep this shoulder nice and plugged in, keep everything in this nice plane, then reach your arm up. And just kind of notice when you start to feel some big stretch here in the side of your body, kind of taking it slow from that point on. And just kind of enjoying the process of the stretch as well as the position and the pose itself. And you can keep going. You can continue to reach and stretch over towards your right side as much as you choose, just so that you feel like everything is nice and stacked and you feel tall here. Maybe closing your eyes if that's even accessible for you with balance, because balance is kind of a challenge right now, I'm sure. And sometimes it just allows you to enjoy your pose for a moment, or maybe just find a soft gaze. We'll slowly start to come down, and we'll just do it the same way we came up, nice and slow. From here, we're going to bring our hands back down to our mat. And then we're going to bend into our right knee a couple of times. So not a whole lot, just kind of shifting over and then back. So this might feel like a big stretch. If you need to shift the heel in at all, that's perfect here. And we just kind of go back and forth. So it's right to left. And you can kind of determine how deep you go, how long you stay here. So maybe you kind of pause and kind of sit in it for a moment because it feels really good. That's perfect. But just kind of notice how you feel here. And if you need a little bit more space, perhaps, because you're kind of feeling like you're bending too far down to get there, here's always another option, some blocks underneath of your hands. And let's do one more. let's find our way from here. So we'll find our right knee comes down, and I'm going to shift my blocks back out of the way and then turn so that you make your way back to your hands and knees position, and we'll find a little puppy pose once more. So check in, knees, hips nice and stacked. Walk your fingertips forward, forehead rests down. And just allowing this full length of your spine. We'll slowly start to bring our hands closer in until you can kind of shift your elbows in closer towards you. So you probably don't need to move as much as I'm going to. You can probably just go to the other side, but I'm going to turn the opposite way so that you can see me and I can pretend I can see you. So I'm just going to turn around and do the same thing, but with the opposite foot. So I'm just going to turn around for you here. And from our table position, so from here, we're going to start to step this time our left foot forward. And we have, so remember we started, I forgot to tell you to shift your hands over to the side, I apologize. And we find our way here so that we feel like we're using hands for support, so that as we shift up, we can find our way here in this upright position, our little warrior pose. So you start to feel this pretty deep stretch here on this top of your right thigh. And humor me if you're not feeling it as much as I am. And from here, we find our way just being nice and tall. Let's find, again, let's bring our hands back down and curl your back toes under, and then slowly make your way back up. So it's a little deeper stretch here in this top part of your thigh, this quad here. And shoulders relax down, and kind of remember taking your time if this is a really deep stretch for you, just to take your time to come upright. Don't feel like you have to be tall, tall, tall yet. And you can work up to it, because this pose is not one that we just do all the time. So this is not what we consider normal. And then from here, we'll start to make our way down and kind of go a little bit more over towards your right side, because we're going to turn so that we're facing a little bit more. You're facing towards me, I hope. And then I'm going to adjust so I'm going to think about my right knee and heel and ankle kind of nice and stacked. And then think about this left heel and right knee kind of being in the same plane. If the right knee is a little bit further forward, that's perfect. And then kind of slowly make your way upright. And if it takes a minute to find that good position, take a minute. If this side feels a little alien in comparison to the other, maybe shift a little bit. So again, as long as this knee here is either right in the same plane or a little bit further in front, you're perfect here. And if this foot needs to go at a little bit of an angle to help you be a little bit more secure and sturdy, that's perfect. And once you get your good position here, take your arms into your T position. Thinking about those fingertips, lengthening from fingertips to the shoulder. So we're really lengthening along with both walls here. Reaching our fingertips towards each wall. Maybe gaze at your middle finger of your left hand. We'll add some movement. So back hand comes down, front hand reaches up. We'll exhale back down, so back to our warrior two. The inhale, we shift up. Exhale, we shift back down. One more time, we inhale up. Exhale, we make our way back down. Then from here, we'll start to bend our elbow so that we bring our forearm down to the top of our thigh. And then I'm going to have you bring this right arm down, and you kind of already feel this length that you're creating. And we'll just kind of think about this right hand kind of like the hands of our clock. And still keeping the shoulder plugged in, lengthening here. So you're creating all of this space from your knee all the way up. Maybe even drawing your right knee down a little bit. You can continue to reach over if that creates a good amount of length for you, or even just staying right here and just lengthening here is perfect. One more breath here with me. We'll slowly turn that dial back. And then we'll start to shift our way a little bit forward here. So from here, you'll want to just find, and we'll just kind of sink over into our left knee. And I kind of liked using the blocks here, just so I'm not kind of crouching to get there. And if the toes kind of shift a little to make this more comfortable for you, that's okay. Just kind of find really sinking into your knee as much as you like. And you can kind of hang out here. Sometimes we like to bounce a little bit too. I'm way too tight for that, but you, if that's more where you are, that's perfect, as long as it feels good. Like we want a little bit of a challenge, but we don't want to feel like we're going too far too fast. So we can definitely overstretch our hips. So take it easy, especially if this is your first time with this pose. Let's do just one more. And then we'll make our way. Sometimes after those poses, I just want to get my knees as close together as I can. Maybe sit on your heels if that's comfortable, kind of getting those hips close. And let's find our way to a seated position. So you won't need your blanket for this one, and we'll just set that blanket to the side, and we'll find our way to seated with our knees bent and feet flat to the floor. So they could be a good distance away from your knees or your tops of your thighs so that you have space for baby. Hands for support on either side of you, and we'll slowly start to take our knees over towards our left side. So my top leg kind of fits, my calf fits right into the arch of my left foot. It doesn't have to, but it kind of feels good to sit there, kind of fits in. Shoulders relax down, get nice and tall here, use hands for support. Start to really open your heart open towards your left side, and then start to look over your left shoulder. Just a couple of breaths here, in and out. And slowly we'll start to make our way forward. Our head and neck is going to be last to come forward. We're going to kind of initiate the movement with our torso and our knees. And eventually we'll start to bring our knees over towards our right side. So again, this top leg kind of fits inside, shoulders relax down, open in our heart. And we'll start to look over towards our right side, like mostly with our heart to begin. And you can kind of, this left hip might pick up a little bit, and that's okay. And then looking over your right shoulder. And just one more breath here. We'll slowly start to make our way forward, nice and slow. Our head and neck kind of comes last. So as we make our way, let's go to hands and knees one more time. I want to do a little bit more cat-cow work with you, and we'll do a different variation this time. I'm going to take a second and get my blanket handy, just so that I have some cushion under my knees, because it's always good to be nice to our knees. And then from here, just your simple table position. And we just want to make sure that we have a nice sturdy table so that we feel that we're supported. So knees under our hips and wrists under our shoulders. And we'll start this one with opening our heart forward, kind of shining the light in the center of our chest forward, kind of like we're looking at the horizon in front of us. And then on your exhale, our head and neck kind of relaxes as we shift our hips down towards our heels. And you can even draw your chin in towards your chest. In this inhale, we make our way up. And shining the light in the center of your chest forward, then on your exhale, we slowly lower down. And we just continue. So we inhale up. My feet kind of shift as I shift forward and back. And that's okay, just as long as you feel supported. And we just continue. So you can make this as exaggerated as you like, or you can keep it subtle and simple. And just continue this forward and back. Just opening your heart. Maybe tucking your chin when you round. Kind of opens up into shoulders. The upper part of your back. Let's do this one here that we're working on. And we'll do one more. Really creating space here. And this inhale, we make our way up. I'm going to take my knees wide one more time. So you don't have to make them as wide as I'm going, or you can make them wider if you choose. And then bring hips down towards heels. So big toes kind of connect, they come together, and forehead rests all the way down. And if this pose isn't feeling good for you, that puppy pose that we did earlier is perfect. And just really letting yourself relax here. Really being heavy. And one more breath. And we'll slowly start to make our way back up. So use hands for support to kind of shift in your knees. And then we'll make our way back to a seated position. So take your blanket if you'd like. And I kind of like to make mine kind of tall so that I have a lot of cushion underneath of my sits bones, so that when I sit down and I bring my sits bones to the, not the far edge, but so that I'm kind of shifting on the edge of it, I make my way so I'm sitting up nice and tall, and it raises your hips a little bit more so that your knees can relax down. And when you're ready, we just stay here. And again, if there's another seated position that you prefer, that one's perfect too. We just take a moment to just kind of notice how we feel here in our body. Again, shoulders relaxing down. Maybe you feel more smooth, even breaths than when you first got here today. And just taking a moment to recognize these changes that are within you, this connection to your body, to your baby. And this may be feeling better than you did when you first sat down here. And take this moment to thank yourself, because you've created this change. You brought this into your life. So thank your body for the work that it does, but don't forget to thank you for nourishing your body. Let's bring your hands to our bellies and send your babies love and acceptance, that we will accept you just as you are whenever you're ready. And your baby is lucky to have you. You will be a wonderful mother to this baby because you already are. So thank you very much for joining me today. I always enjoy it. Thank you. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button at the bottom and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more updates of videos that I have posted. I try to post once a week. And then also, if you need a full final relaxation, I have some additional videos that just do final relaxation. I do it in 2 different poses. One is a reclining pose, and then the other is lying on your side. So check those out as well if you're needing a little bit more and maybe you've got more time to yourself and nurture yourself. So thank you very much. Thank you.